I sat at the table with my sleeves pulled low, flinching at every sudden movement. My brother's eyes met mine, then dropped to the bruises. He didn't say a word. Just hugged me goodbye like always. But 4 hours later, when the house was dark and silent, the front door creaked open again. And this time, he wasn't alone. For years, I perfected the art of silent suffering, swallowing screams behind practiced smiles. But the night my brother saw the bruises, everything changed, because 30 minutes later, I heard the lock click again, and this time, it wasn't my husband coming home. You know, there are two versions of me. The one people see at dinner parties, all practiced smiles and carefully chosen words. And then there's the real me, the one who flinches at sudden movements and covers bruises with long sleeves, even in the blistering summer heat. My name is Lena Carrington. I'm 29, and from the outside, I was living what most would call a dream life in our sprawling colonial home with my husband, Caleb. Once upon a time, I was bright-eyed, ambitious, with a voice that carried across rooms and opinions I wasn't afraid to share. Now, I measure every word before it leaves my lips. I'm a shadow of the woman I used to be. The day my brother Gareth was coming for dinner, my hands trembled as I chopped vegetables. Gareth, my childhood protector, my confidant, the person who taught me how to ride a bike and stand up to bullies. But these days, he felt like a distant relative. Someone I saw at holidays, with awkward hugs and surface-level conversations. He married Mira 5 years ago, and something shifted. That invisible thread connecting us, it began to fray. Need any help? Caleb's voice made me jump, the knife slipping in my grip. He stood in the doorway, handsome in that effortless way that first drew me to him 7 years ago. Dark hair, perfectly styled, blue eyes that crinkled when he smiled. The kind of man people gravitate toward at parties. No, I've got it, I managed, my voice steady despite the anxiety bubbling under my skin. He walked over, placing his hands on my shoulders. It looked loving, right? But his fingers pressed just hard enough to make me wince. You seem nervous, he whispered, his lips close to my ear. It's just your brother and his wife. No need to make such a fuss. I know. I just want everything to be perfect. He reached around me, plucking a slice of bell pepper from the cutting board. Perfect? Like your cooking ever is, he chuckled, as if it was a harmless joke. Just make sure you don't bore them with your stories this time. That was Caleb. Charming and cruel in equal measure. Small comments, laced with just enough truth to make me doubt myself, delivered with a smile that made me question if I was overreacting. I just nodded, swallowing the defense that rose in my throat. Not worth the argument. Not today. The doorbell rang at exactly 7 p.m. Caleb transformed instantly. Shoulders relaxed, smile genuine, voice warm as he welcomed Gareth and Mira into our home. My brother stepped through the door first, his tall frame filling the entryway. At 32, he looked more like our father than ever, same sandy hair, same kind eyes. He hugged me tightly, and for a moment, I actually felt safe. Hey, Lely, he whispered, using my childhood nickname. I pulled back, blinking rapidly. Hi, Gareth. It's good to see you. Mira followed, elegant as always in a fitted black dress, her dark hair swept into a stylish updo. She air-kissed my cheek, her perfume expensive and overwhelming. Lena, she said, her voice cool. The house looks lovely. Did you finally hire a decorator? And there it was, the subtle dig, implying I couldn't possibly have created a beautiful space on my own. I forced a smile. No, just been watching a lot of home improvement shows. Dinner began smoothly enough. Caleb poured wine, told funny stories about work, asked all the right questions about Gareth's new position. I stayed mostly quiet, focusing on serving food without wincing every time I reached across the table. Just 3 days ago, Caleb had grabbed my arms during an argument, his fingers digging into my flesh hard enough to leave marks. The bruises were still fresh, purple, and tender beneath my long-sleeved blouse. So, Lena, Gareth said, his warmth a stark contrast to Mira's coldness. How's the graphic design work going? Before I could answer, Caleb jumped in. She's taking a break, actually. Weren't you saying just yesterday how you needed to focus on our home life more? His hand found mine on the table, squeezing with hidden pressure. Right? I agreed quietly. The truth was, Caleb had convinced me to quit 6 months ago. Said my clients were taking advantage of me. Said I was working too hard for too little. Somehow, I ended up with no clients at all. Mira sipped her wine. Well, not everyone needs a career to feel fulfilled. Some women are perfectly happy focusing on their husbands. Her smile didn't reach her eyes. Though I could never do it, I'd be bored to tears after a week. I leaned forward to refill Gareth's water glass and felt it. The sleeve of my blouse riding up, just enough. Just for a second, but a second was all it took. Gareth's eyes flickered to my wrist where the edge of a bruise peeked out. Time seemed to stop. Our eyes met, and I saw it. Recognition, then shock, then something darker. His jaw tightened, but he said nothing. Mira must have noticed the change in his expression. Gareth, stop hovering over your sister. She's a grown woman, not a child who needs protecting. Her voice dripped with annoyance, a familiar tone whenever Gareth showed me attention. I quickly pulled my arm back, tucking my sleeve down. The moment hung between us, heavy with unspoken questions. But Gareth stayed silent, and my heart sank. Whatever connection we once had, it wasn't strong enough anymore. Not strong enough for him to ask the question I desperately needed someone to ask. The evening dragged on. Caleb charmed them with stories and jokes. The perfect host. I smiled when appropriate, laughed when expected, all while feeling Gareth's concerned glances. By dessert, I was exhausted from the performance. When they finally prepared to leave, Gareth hugged me longer than usual, his arms gentle as if he knew exactly where it hurt. Take care of yourself, Lily, he whispered, and there was a weight to his words that made my eyes burn. I nodded, unable to speak around the lump in my throat. Mira barely said goodbye, already talking about some early meeting they had tomorrow. And then they were gone, leaving me alone with Caleb and the crushing weight of disappointment. Caleb closed the door, turning to me with a smug grin. He grabbed a beer from the fridge, popping it open with a satisfied sigh. See? Told you they'd never suspect a thing. I began clearing the table, my movements mechanical, tears threatening to spill over. I had hoped, foolishly perhaps, that Gareth would see through the facade, that he would recognize the girl who once stood up to his bullies, was now unable to stand up for herself. I was halfway through loading the dishwasher when I heard it. The sound of the front door lock clicking. My heart leaped into my throat as I straightened, hands trembling. Caleb, I called out, my voice barely audible. But Caleb was still in the living room, beer in hand, feet propped up on the coffee table. He looked up, frowning. What? And that's when I realized someone was coming back. My breath caught as footsteps approached the kitchen. I froze in place, clutching a dinner plate to my chest like a shield. The footsteps were deliberate, steady, not Caleb's heavy tread when he was angry. Different. My mind flashed to all the times Caleb had warned me about what would happen if I ever told anyone about our private matters. Would he hurt me worse this time? But it wasn't Caleb coming to punish me for some perceived slight. It was Gareth. He stood in the doorway of the kitchen, alone, his face a mask of barely contained emotion. He looked at me, really looked at me, taking in details I'd been hiding for years, the slight hunch of my shoulders, the way I immediately put distance between myself and others. The faded bruise near my collarbone, visible now that I'd changed into a more comfortable shirt after dinner. We stared at each other for what felt like an eternity. From the living room, I could hear the TV blaring. Caleb oblivious to the intrusion, probably assuming Gareth had forgotten something. How long has this been going on? Gareth finally asked, his voice so quiet I barely heard it. The plate slipped from my fingers, crashing to the floor. The sound startled us both, and I immediately dropped to my knees, frantically gathering the pieces. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, I whispered automatically, the apology as reflexive as breathing. Gareth knelt beside me, gently taking the shards from my trembling hands. Lena, stop. Look at me. I raised my eyes to meet his, and something inside me cracked open. Years of practice, lies, and careful evasions dissolved under my brother's gaze. 3 years, I whispered. It started small, checking my phone, questioning where I'd been, getting angry if dinner wasn't ready. My voice broke. Then criticism, then control, then this. I gestured vaguely to my arms, the movement making me wince. Gareth's face crumpled. I should have known. I've seen the signs, Lena. The way you've withdrawn. How you never visit without him. The excuses for missed holidays. He ran a hand through his hair. I convinced myself it was nothing, that I was imagining things. Mira said I was imagining drama. He continued, the words tumbling out now. She told me to focus on our marriage, that you were just going through a phase, that all couples have rough patches. The mention of Mira made my stomach twist. She knew. Gareth shook his head. I don't think she knew the extent, but he hesitated, choosing his words carefully. She's always been threatened by our relationship, Lena. She hates how close we were as kids. Feels like you take attention from her. A memory surfaced. Mira pulling Gareth away at our parents' anniversary party 3 years ago, just as I was about to tell him about the first time Caleb had shoved me. Where is she now? I asked, glancing nervously toward the living room. Caleb would come looking for me soon. In the car. But I didn't come alone. Gareth lowered his voice further. There's someone else with me. Her name is Rosalind. She runs a network of safe houses for women escaping abuse. My heart pounded painfully against my ribs. A safe house. Gareth. I can't just leave. He'll find me. He's told me exactly what he'd do if I ever tried to run. He won't find you, and he won't hurt you ever again. I promise. You don't understand, I said, desperation creeping into my voice. Caleb has money. Connections. He's friends with half the police department. He said he'll make me disappear if I ever leave. Gareth took my hands in his, careful of the bruises. Listen to me, Laylee. You saved me from bullies when I was 10. You stood up to kids twice your size because they were picking on your little brother. Let me return the favor. I blinked back tears. I'm not that brave girl anymore, Gareth. Yes, you are. She's still in there. He squeezed my hands gently. Will you at least talk to Rosalind? She's helped hundreds of women like you build new lives. Before I could answer, Caleb's voice boomed from the living room. Lena, who are you talking to? Gareth and I exchanged panicked glances. It's just me, Gareth called back, his voice surprisingly steady. Forgot my phone. Lena's helping me look for it. Oh, need any help? Caleb appeared in the doorway, eyes narrowing as he took in the broken plate and our positions on the floor. No, we've got it, Gareth replied, standing smoothly. He pulled out his phone from his pocket. Found it. Must have fallen out when I was getting my coat. Caleb's suspicious gaze darted between us. Everything okay? Lena looks upset. I forced a smile. Just clumsy. Dropped a plate when Gareth startled me. Caleb seemed to accept this, though his eyes lingered on my brother. Well, don't keep her up too late. She gets emotional when she's tired. The condescension in his tone made Gareth's jaw clench, but he maintained his composure. Of course, I was just leaving. As they walked to the door, I hurriedly cleaned up the remaining shards, my mind racing. Gareth returned a moment later, speaking quickly and quietly. Tomorrow. 10 a.m. I'll text you when we're outside. Rosalind wants to meet you. Just meet her, Lena. That's all I'm asking for now. I nodded, not trusting myself to speak. Gareth hesitated, then pulled me into another hug. You're not alone anymore, he whispered before slipping out the door. After he left, I moved through the house like a ghost, mechanically finishing the dishes, listening to Caleb talk about what a good evening it had been, how well they'd gotten along with him. But inside, something had shifted. A tiny spark of hope had been lit. Someone had seen through the facade. Someone was watching, waiting, caring. I went to bed that night beside my husband, feeling the weight of his arm across my waist, both familiar and suffocating. But for the first time in years, I allowed myself to imagine a different life, a life without fear. The next morning, true to his word, Gareth texted at exactly 10 a.m. Caleb had left for work an hour earlier, warning me to have dinner ready by 7. I peered through the curtains to see a nondescript sedan parked across the street. Heart hammering, I opened the door. A woman with silver-streaked black hair and kind eyes approached alongside Gareth. She wore simple clothes, jeans, a button-up shirt, practical shoes. Nothing about her screamed savior, but the gentle confidence in her gaze told me she'd seen women like me before. Lena, this is Rosalind Harper, Gareth said. She didn't offer her hand. Didn't invade my space, just nodded respectfully. May we come in? I hesitated, then stepped aside. They followed me to the kitchen, the safest place in the house, furthest from any neighbors who might see unexpected visitors through the windows. I run a network of safe houses across 3 states, Rosalind explained once we were seated. Women come to us when they're ready to leave dangerous situations. We provide temporary housing, legal assistance, counseling, and eventually help rebuilding independent lives. Her voice was matter-of-fact, not pitying. I appreciated that. I've been with Caleb for 7 years, I said. Married for 5. I don't have my own bank account anymore. My car is in his name. I haven't worked in months. Rosalind nodded. That's very common. Isolation and financial control are powerful tools of abuse. I'm not sure I can leave, I admitted. He'll come after me. That's why we have security protocols, she replied. No one finds our safe houses unless we want them to. She pulled out her phone, showing me photos of women standing in front of small businesses, university buildings, new apartments. Their faces were blurred for privacy, but their body language spoke volumes, shoulders back, heads high. These are some of the women we've helped, Rosalind said. 5 years out, 3 years, 7 years. I stared at the images, unable to believe the confidence radiating from these once broken women. They looked so free. It won't be easy, Rosalind continued. But it is possible. When they left an hour later, I helped Gareth sneak out the back way, paranoid that Caleb might return unexpectedly or that a neighbor might report seeing visitors. I'm not ready, I told my brother at the door, hiding my trembling hands in my pockets. Not yet. Gareth nodded, disappointment flashing in his eyes, but understanding too. When you are, I'm here. One text, that's all it takes. I watched them drive away, already feeling the walls of my prison closing in again. But something had changed. I knew now that I wasn't as alone as I'd thought. My phone chimed the next morning with a text from Mira. I felt a chill run through me before I even read it. Asterisk whatever you're trying to stir up with Gareth. Don't drag him down with your drama, asterisk. I stared at the message, my throat tightening. So Gareth hadn't told her about his return visit, about Rosalind. What else had he kept from her? I didn't respond. Not trusting myself to find words that wouldn't make things worse. The text brought back a memory I'd tried to bury. Thanksgiving, 4 years ago, when we were all still pretending to be a happy family. I'd retreated to the guest bathroom during dessert, needing a moment away from Caleb's increasingly critical comments throughout dinner. He'd followed me, cornering me in the hallway. You're embarrassing me, he'd hissed, fingers digging into my elbow, talking about your stupid design projects like anyone gives a damn. Gareth was just being polite. Learn to read a room, Lena. Movement caught my eye. Mira, standing at the end of the hallway, witnessing the entire exchange. Our eyes met for a brief moment. Then she simply turned and walked away, pretending she hadn't seen a thing. It wasn't the only time she'd looked the other way. 3 years ago, when Caleb's emotional abuse was escalating but hadn't yet turned physical, I'd reached out to her. Woman to woman, sister to sister-in-law. I think something's wrong with my marriage, I'd confided during a rare moment alone with her. Caleb gets so angry sometimes over little things. He says such cruel things. Mira had sighed, examining her manicure. All men snap sometimes, Lena. Marriage isn't a fairy tale. If you're going to run crying to Gareth every time Caleb has a bad day, you're going to ruin your marriage and put a strain on mine. I haven't told Gareth anything, I'd protested. Good. Keep it that way. He doesn't need your drama on top of his workload. I'd retreated into myself after that conversation, convinced that what was happening was normal, that I was the problem for not handling it better. By the time Caleb's anger turned physical, I'd already built a fortress of silence around myself. Back in the present, I deleted Mira's message and went about my day, trying to focus on normal tasks. But something felt different. Caleb was acting strange, hovering more than usual, checking my phone when he thought I wasn't looking, suddenly bringing home flowers and my favorite dessert from the bakery across town. It was a red flag. This pattern of sudden generosity usually meant he suspected something and was trying to lull me into a false sense of security. I needed to be careful. That night, after he fell asleep, I slipped out of bed and retrieved the burner phone Rosalind had secretly pressed into my hand before leaving. I hid it inside a box of feminine products in the bathroom, the one place I knew Caleb would never look. Then, I made a decision. I would start documenting everything. Over the next week, I became meticulous. I recorded arguments on the burner phone hidden in my pocket. I photographed bruises before they faded. I kept a journal, coded as a diet diary to avoid suspicion, detailing incidents with dates and times. If I ever found the courage to leave, I wouldn't go empty-handed. The doorbell rang unexpectedly on Thursday afternoon. My heart nearly stopped. I wasn't expecting anyone, and unexpected visitors made Caleb suspicious. I opened the door to find Mira standing there, arms crossed, expression cold. We need to talk, she said, brushing past me into the house without waiting for an invitation. I closed the door, anxiety crawling up my spine. Caleb's not home. I'm not here to see Caleb. I'm here about my husband. She turned to face me, her perfectly made-up face twisted with annoyance. Gareth has been obsessed with you lately, checking his phone constantly, making secretive calls, disappearing for hours without explanation. I kept my face neutral. I don't know what you're talking about. Don't play innocent, Lena. Whatever manipulation you're pulling on him needs to stop. Our marriage is struggling enough without you dragging him into your drama. The accusation stung. But it also ignited something in me. A flicker of the backbone I'd once had. My drama? Yes, your drama. You've always needed to be the center of attention. Poor little Lena. Everyone has to drop everything to take care of her. I took a deep breath. Mira, do you want to know why Gareth is concerned? Really want to know? She rolled her eyes. Enlighten me. Because Caleb hits me, I said it plainly, without emotion. He's been hitting me for years. Mira didn't flinch. Didn't look shocked. Didn't express horror or sympathy. Instead, she sighed heavily, as if I'd told her I'd bounced a check. You're always playing the victim, Lena. If your marriage failed, that's on you. Her words hit harder than any of Caleb's blows ever had. You knew, I whispered. You've always known. Marriages are complicated. Everyone has problems. This isn't a problem. This is abuse. Mira grabbed her purse, already heading for the door. If you were really being abused, you would have left years ago. Instead, you stay and complain. That's a choice, Lena. After she left, I sat on the couch, numb. The woman married to my brother, my only living family, had just dismissed years of pain as a choice, as a bid for attention. Gareth called that evening, his voice tense. Did Mira come see you today? Yes. A heavy sigh. I'm sorry. She went through my phone, found messages from Rosalind. I didn't tell her everything, but she knows I'm worried about you. She thinks I'm making it up for attention. The silence on the other end of the line spoke volumes. There's something else, Gareth finally said. Something you need to know. Mira, she spoke to Caleb. Called him yesterday. My blood ran cold. What? She told him you might do something dramatic soon. That she was worried about your mental state. The betrayal was so profound I couldn't speak for several seconds. She warned him. She's giving him time to prepare. Rosalind says we need to move up the timeline. If you're going to leave, it needs to be soon. He's been warned now, Lena. The clock is ticking. That night, I deleted every trace of Mira from my phone, texts, calls, photos. As I stared at the empty contact entry, a thought crystallized in my mind. Blood may be thicker than water, but poisonous thick, too. I could feel the invisible chains that had bound me for years starting to crack. Not break, not yet, but weaken. And sometimes that's enough to begin. The morning after Mira's visit, I woke to find Caleb sitting on the edge of the bed, watching me sleep. My heart seized with panic, but I carefully controlled my expression, offering him a sleepy smile. Morning, I murmured, trying to sound normal despite the chill running down my spine. You were talking in your sleep, he said, his voice eerily calm. Something about leaving. I forced a laugh. Probably about leaving for the grocery store. I've been dreaming about the most mundane things lately. His eyes narrowed slightly, but he leaned down to kiss my forehead, his lips lingering too long. I love you. You know that, right? I know, I whispered. I love you, too. The words tasted like ash in my mouth, but I'd become a skilled actress over the years. I watched him get ready for work, his movements precise and controlled as always. The moment the front door closed behind him, I reached for the burner phone hidden in my bathroom. Asterisk, he's suspicious. What do I do? Asterisk, her response came quickly. Asterisk, act normal. Don't change routines. We're working on a plan. Asterisk, the next few days became an elaborate dance. Caleb vacillated between extremes. Sometimes overwhelmingly affectionate, bringing me gifts and telling me how beautiful I was. Other times, cold and critical, watching my every move with hawk-like intensity. The unpredictability was almost worse than consistent cruelty. At least with the latter, I knew what to expect. I played my part flawlessly, pretending to fall back in love with him. I cooked his favorite meals, laughed at his jokes, and responded to his touch without flinching, all while documenting everything in my hidden journal. On Thursday night, while Caleb was at a work dinner, Rosalind arranged for me to meet with her and Gareth at a coffee shop 20 minutes from our house. I told Caleb I was meeting an old college friend, showing him a fake text conversation I'd created to back up my story. You didn't mention this before, he said, suspicion clouding his features. It just came up today, I replied, keeping my voice light. Jenny's in town for a conference. It's been years since I've seen her. You don't mind, do you? He studied me for a long moment before nodding. Be home by 9 o'clock, of course. At the coffee shop, Gareth and Rosalind sat at a corner table, heads bent in serious conversation. Gareth looked exhausted, dark circles under his eyes. He'd moved out of his house with Mira, temporarily staying with a friend from work. "How are you holding up?" I asked, sliding into the seat across from him. "I should be asking you that," he replied with a weary smile. Rosalind got straight to business, sliding a burner phone across the table. "This is your lifeline. Keep it charged and hidden. When you're ready to leave, text a single word, Ash. That's all. We'll know what it means." I pocketed the phone, my fingers trembling slightly. "Then what?" "Then we move fast." Rosalind's eyes were steady on mine. "The safe house is ready. We have people who can help you get there safely." "I've been thinking," I said hesitantly. "When I leave, I want proof. Evidence of what he's done." Gareth frowned. "Your testimony is evidence, Lena. It's not enough. It's my word against his, and he's charming. Convincing." I took a deep breath. "I need more." Rosalind nodded slowly. "Documentation helps. Have you been keeping records like we discussed?" "Yes, but I want something concrete. Something he can't talk his way out of." "Be careful," Gareth warned. "If he catches you gathering evidence, I know the risk," I interrupted. "But I'm done being afraid." The next day, while Caleb was in the shower, I made a discovery that changed everything. His laptop, carelessly left open on the kitchen counter. I hesitated only a moment before sliding into the chair, heart pounding as I quickly checked his email. There, in a hidden folder marked Brighton Holdings, I found a series of altered financial records. Clear evidence of embezzlement from his father's company, where Caleb served as CFO. Thousands of dollars siphoned off monthly into offshore accounts. I heard the shower stop and quickly took photos of the screen with the burner phone before closing the laptop and moving away. My mind raced with the implications. This was leverage. Dangerous leverage. That night, Gareth called from a new number. "I've brought someone else in," he said without preamble. "A detective named Ellis. He's been investigating financial crimes at Brighton Holdings for months." "Caleb's company?" I whispered, moving to the bathroom and turning on the shower to mask our conversation. "Yes. Ellis says your abuse claim could add significant weight to their case. 2 birds, 1 stone. How do I meet him?" "You don't. Not yet. It's safer that way." 2 days later, it happened. The incident that would become my final breaking point. I'd accidentally overcooked Caleb's steak. Such a small thing. Such a stupid, insignificant thing. But it was enough. "Are you ****ing kidding me?" he snarled, throwing the plate against the wall. "How hard is it to cook a decent meal?" "One thing, Lena, I ask you to do one thing right." I backed away, hands raised placatingly. "I'm sorry. I can make another." The blow came so fast I didn't see it coming. His fist connected with my cheekbone, sending me stumbling backward into the counter. Pain exploded across my face, bright and hot. But this time, something was different. This time, I had the burner phone in my pocket, already recording. As he continued his tirade, grabbing my arms and shaking me, I kept my wits enough to ensure the phone captured everything: his threats, his admissions of past abuse, the sounds of impact when he hit me again. When it was over, when he'd stormed out to get real food since I was too incompetent to provide it, I sat on the kitchen floor, touching my swollen face with trembling fingers. But instead of despair, I felt something unexpected. Resolve. I pulled out the phone and sent a text to Gareth. "It's time," the response came immediately. "Are you safe right now? Yes. He left, but he'll be back soon. Get what you need ready. Tomorrow. Be prepared. Later that night, Caleb returned, calmer but still cold. He sat beside me on the couch, taking my hand in his. "I'm sorry about earlier," he said, his voice smooth as glass. "Work has been stressful. You know I don't mean to lose my temper." I nodded, the familiar script playing out between us. His apology, my acceptance, the uneasy peace that would last until the next explosion. "I've been thinking," he continued, surprising me. "We need to get away. Just the 2 of us. Reconnect." He smiled, and it almost reached his eyes. "I've booked a cabin in the mountains this weekend. No phones, no distractions." My blood ran cold. The timing couldn't be worse. A remote cabin, no witnesses, no way to call for help. Was it a coincidence? Or had Mira's warning made him decide to isolate me completely? That sounds wonderful, I lied, squeezing his hand. That night, as Caleb slept beside me, I stared at the ceiling, heart racing. If he got me to that cabin, I might never come back. This wasn't just about escaping anymore. It was about surviving. I reached for the burner phone hidden beneath the mattress and sent the text I'd been afraid to send for years. Ash, the response came seconds later. Asterisk understood. Standby, asterisk the plan was in motion. There would be no cabin in the mountains. Tomorrow would be the last day I spent as Caleb's prisoner. I closed my eyes, not sleeping, but rehearsing. Every step, every word, everything I would need to do to walk out of this house alive. Dawn broke with pale light filtering through the bedroom curtains. I barely slept, hyper-aware of Caleb's every movement beside me. He woke at 6 as always, kissing my forehead before heading to the shower. I lay there listening to the water run, mentally checking off my preparation list. The small bag I packed was hidden in the back of my closet, containing only essentials, documents, medication, a few clothes, the journal that documented my abuse, and the burner phone with recorded evidence. Everything else I would leave behind. Caleb emerged from the bathroom, towel wrapped around his waist, humming as he selected a suit for the day. I'll leave work early today, he said, buttoning his shirt. We should hit the road by 4 to beat traffic to the mountains. I nodded, forcing enthusiasm into my voice. I can't wait. Pack light, just casual clothes. We won't be going anywhere fancy. Another check on my mental list. He wanted to limit what I brought, making it harder to leave once we arrived. I'll have everything ready, I promised. He left for work at 7:30, kissing me deeply at the door, his hands possessive on my waist. See you at 3, he said, eyes lingering on mine as if searching for deceit. The moment his car disappeared down the street, I sprang into action. Gareth had texted detailed instructions during the night. I slipped the recording device Rosalind had provided into my bra, a tiny microphone that would capture Caleb's voice when he returned. By 2 p.m., everything was in place. I'd packed a decoy weekend bag that Caleb would expect to see. My real escape bag was hidden by the back door. I'd removed all traceable electronics, my regular phone, tablet, smartwatch, and left them in the bedroom. At 2:30, Gareth confirmed their positions. Ellis, the detective, was parked down the street with an arrest warrant, waiting for my signal. Rosalind was nearby with a car ready to take me to the safe house. Gareth himself would arrive just before Caleb to ensure I wasn't alone when my husband returned. At 2:50, I heard a car in the driveway. My heart leaped into my throat. Caleb was early. I peeked through the curtains and nearly collapsed with relief. It was Gareth, right on time. I opened the door before he could knock, pulling him inside quickly. Are you ready? He asked, eyes scanning my face, lingering on the fading bruise on my cheekbone. As ready as I'll ever be. We went through the plan one last time. Caleb would arrive. I would let him enter, act normal. Once he was inside, Gareth would block the driveway with his car, preventing escape. Ellis would approach with the warrant. If all went well, Caleb would be arrested without incident. If not, well, we had contingencies for that, too. At 3:15, Caleb's black Audi pulled into the driveway. I took a deep breath, meeting Gareth's eyes one last time before he slipped into the kitchen, out of sight but within earshot. Caleb entered with a smile, a weekend bag slung over his shoulder. Ready for our getaway? He asked, setting down his keys. Almost, I replied, hating how my voice shook slightly. Just need to grab a few things. He frowned, noticing something off in my demeanor. Everything okay? Fine, just excited. I moved toward the bedroom, creating distance between us. Through the window, I could see Gareth's car now blocking the driveway. The trap was set. Whose car is that? Caleb's voice sharpened as he looked out the front window. My brother's, I said simply. Caleb turned to me slowly, his expression hardening. Your brother's? And why is your brother here right now? I swallowed hard, standing my ground. Because I asked him to be. The change was instantaneous. The charming mask fell away, revealing the monster beneath. What did you do? He snarled, advancing toward me. I backed away, heart hammering. Nothing yet. But I'm not going to the cabin with you, Caleb. I'm not going anywhere with you ever again. His face contorted with rage. You ungrateful bitch. After everything I've done for you, the front door opened and Gareth stepped into the living room. That's enough, Caleb. Caleb spun around, momentarily startled by Gareth's appearance. This is between me and my wife. Get out of my house. No, Gareth said firmly. I'm not leaving without Lena. Caleb laughed, the sound cold and brittle. She's not going anywhere. Tell him, Lena. Tell him how happy we are together. I stepped forward, pushing up the sleeve of my shirt to reveal the constellation of bruises on my arm. This asterisk is what happiness looks like to him, Gareth. Caleb lunged forward, but Gareth moved faster, positioning himself between us. Outside, another car pulled up. Detective Ellis. Right on schedule. Caleb Carrington. Ellis called as he approached the front door, warrant in hand. I have a warrant for your arrest on charges of financial fraud and embezzlement from Brighton Holdings. Caleb's face went pale. What? This is ridiculous. Who the hell are you? Ellis entered, showing his badge. Detective James Ellis, Financial Crimes Unit. We've been investigating discrepancies in Brighton Holdings accounts for months, and now we're adding domestic abuse charges as well. Domestic abuse? Caleb scoffed, turning to me with venom in his eyes. You're making this up. She's lying. She's always been unstable. With steady hands, I pulled out my phone and played the recording from 2 days ago. His voice crystal clear as he berated me. The unmistakable sound of his fist connecting with my face, my cry of pain. I have dozens more like this, I said quietly, going back months. Caleb's expression shifted from disbelief to rage. With a roar, he lunged at Gareth, fists flying. You did this. You turned her against me. I moved without thinking, stepping between them. This ends now, I said, my voice stronger than it had been in years. You don't control me anymore. Ellis intervened quickly, restraining Caleb with practiced efficiency. Caleb Carrington, you're under arrest for domestic assault and battery as well as financial fraud. You have the right to remain silent. As Ellis recited the Miranda rights, Rosalind appeared at the door, her calm presence a stark contrast to the chaos inside. She put an arm around my shoulders, guiding me gently away from Caleb's venomous glare. You're safe now, she murmured. It's over. But it wasn't quite over yet. As Ellis was leading Caleb to the police car, a sleek white Mercedes screeched to a halt behind it. Mira emerged, her face a mask of indignation. What the hell is going on here? She demanded, marching up to Gareth. I got a call saying Caleb was being arrested. He is, Gareth confirmed coldly. For abusing Lena and for embezzlement. Mira's eyes darted to Caleb, then back to Gareth. This is insane. She's manipulating you. She's always been jealous of us, of our marriage. Stop it. Gareth exploded, his patience finally shattering. You knew. You knew what he was doing to her, and you let her rot in that house while you whispered lies in my ear. Mira took a step back, shock registering on her face at his outburst. Gareth, you're not thinking clearly. I'm thinking more clearly than I have in years, he interrupted. You chose a side. You warned him when you found out I was helping Lena. You tried to keep me from protecting my own sister. I was protecting our marriage. Mira protested, tears welling in her eyes. She's always come between us. No, you came between us with your jealousy, your pettiness. Gareth shook his head, a finality in his voice that made Mira flinch. We're done. You made your choice. Mira turned to me, hatred blazing in her eyes. This is your fault. You've ruined everything. I met her gaze steadily. No, Mira. You did that all on your own. As Ellis drove away with Caleb in the backseat, I stood in the doorway of the house that had been my prison for so long. 5 years of fear. 5 years of walking on eggshells. 5 years of hiding bruises and making excuses. Rosalind touched my arm gently. The car is ready when you are. We should go before reporters show up. Financial crimes involving Brighton Holdings will make the news. I nodded, turning back to grab my small bag from beside the door. I took one last look around at the perfect furniture, the spotless kitchen, the carefully curated facade of a happy home. None of it was real. None of it was worth keeping. As we pulled away, I watched the house, my prison, disappear in the rearview mirror. A single tear rolled down my cheek, not of sadness, but of release. I turned to Gareth in the back seat beside me and whispered, "Thank you for coming back that night." He took my hand, his eyes full of regret and determination. I wish I'd come sooner. 8 months later, I stood behind the counter of a small bookstore cafe, arranging a display of new releases. Sunlight streamed through the large front windows, catching dust motes and golden beams. The scent of coffee and old books filled the air. My favorite combination of smells in the world. Looking good, Rosalind commented, approaching with 2 mugs of tea. She handed one to me, surveying the display with approval. The poetry section's really coming together. I smiled, accepting the tea gratefully. Thanks. I think it's my favorite part of the store. After leaving Caleb, I'd spent 6 weeks in one of Rosalind's safe houses, a comfortable, secure home shared with 3 other women escaping similar situations. There, I'd begun the slow process of rebuilding my life and my sense of self. With Rosalind's help, I'd relocated to a quiet town 3 hours from my old home. Using my background in graphic design, I'd found work creating marketing materials for local businesses. When the opportunity came to partner with Rosalind on opening a bookstore cafe that would partially fund her safe house network, I jumped at the chance. Now, 8 months later, New Chapter Books and Brew was thriving. More importantly, so was I. The bell above the door jingled, and I looked up to see Gareth entering with his 10-year-old daughter, Sophie. After finalizing his divorce from Mira, he gained primary custody of Sophie, with Mira's visitation limited to supervised weekends. "Aunt Lena!" Sophie called, rushing over to hug me. Her sandy hair, so like her father's, was pulled into a messy braid, and her freckled face beamed with excitement. "Dad said we can stay for story time today." I hugged her back, warmth spreading through my chest. "That's great. We're reading The Secret Garden today. I think you'll love it." Gareth approached more slowly, carrying a cardboard box. "Found this in the attic while cleaning. Thought you might want it." I raised an eyebrow, taking the box. "More of my old stuff?" He nodded. "Mostly books and some drawings from when we were kids. Mom saved everything. Our parents had died in a car accident 5 years ago, the event that had initially driven me closer to Caleb, seeking security and comfort in the aftermath of loss. Now, looking at Gareth's kind face, so similar to our father's, I realized I'd always had family who truly loved me. I just lost sight of that truth for a while. "Thanks for bringing this," I said, setting the box beneath the counter. "Are you staying for lunch?" "If you're offering," Gareth grinned. "Sophie's been talking about your tomato soup all week." As I prepared lunch in the small kitchen behind the cafe, I reflected on how much had changed. Caleb's trial for financial fraud had concluded 3 months ago, resulting in a 7-year sentence. The domestic abuse charges had added another 2 years. More importantly, I had a permanent restraining order against him. The journal I'd kept during my marriage had been published anonymously with Rosalind's encouragement. Breakthrough, a survivor's journal, had become an unexpected resource for women in similar situations, its raw honesty resonating with readers across the country. Every Tuesday evening, we hosted a support circle in the bookstore's reading room after closing. Women, and occasionally men, came to share their stories, find resources, or simply sit in silent solidarity. I facilitated these meetings alongside a professional counselor, offering the perspective of someone who had walked the path from victim to survivor. "Penny for your thoughts?" Gareth asked, appearing in the kitchen doorway. I smiled, stirring the soup. "Just thinking about how different everything is now." "Good different?" "Mostly." I hesitated. "Have you heard from Mira lately?" Garrett's expression darkened slightly. "Not outside of custody exchanges. She's still bitter about the divorce. Still blames you." "I'm sorry about that." He shrugged. "Don't be. The marriage was broken long before all this happened. I just couldn't see it clearly." He paused. "Do you regret how things turned out?" I considered the question carefully. "I regret not leaving sooner. I regret the years I lost to fear, but I don't regret where I am now." After lunch, while Sophie browsed the children's section, Gareth helped me unpack the box he'd brought. Beneath layers of old paperbacks and high school notebooks, I found a faded drawing on construction paper. 2 stick figures, one tall, one small, stood hand in hand, wearing capes. "Super Gareth and Mighty Lena" was scrawled across the top in childish handwriting. "I remember this," I whispered, tears pricking my eyes. "I drew it after you stood up to Billy Sanderson for pushing me off the swings." Gareth smiled, the memories softening his features. "You told me I was brave. But you were the one who taught me what bravery looked like, Laylee." I wiped away a tear, carefully setting the drawing aside. I forgot that version of myself for a long time. "She was always there," Gareth said gently, just waiting for the right moment to come back. The following week, I found myself sitting in the back row of a courtroom, watching as another abuser faced consequences for his actions. Not Caleb this time, but the husband of Naomi, a woman who had started attending our support circles 2 months ago. Naomi sat in the front row, her shoulders straight, her testimony already given. She reminded me so much of myself from a year ago, tentative steps toward freedom, the lingering fear in her eyes, the cautious way she accepted help. We'd formed a quiet friendship over poetry. She wrote beautiful, haunting verses about captivity and release. In her, I saw echoes of my past self. And in me, perhaps she glimpsed her future potential. When the verdict came, guilty on all counts, I watched her shoulders shake with silent sobs of relief. Outside the courthouse, I waited until she emerged, then simply stood beside her in silent support as reporters clamored for statements. "Does it ever go away completely?" she asked later as we sat in the peaceful quiet of the bookstore after closing. "The fear, I mean?" I considered her question honestly. The pain didn't end when I left, I admitted, but it stopped growing, and eventually, it made room for other things. Joy, peace, hope. Naomi nodded, absorbing this. "I'd like to believe that's possible for me, too." "It is," I assured her. "One day at a time." That evening, after everyone had gone, Rosalind approached me with an unexpected proposal. "I'm expanding the Safe House network," she explained, spreading a map across the counter. "Opening 3 more locations across the state. I need someone to help coordinate, someone who understands both the emotional and practical sides of this work." I stared at her, realization dawning. "You want me to work with you officially?" She nodded. "You have a gift, Lena. The women trust you. You speak their language because you've lived their reality. Will you consider it?" The Lena from a year ago would have hesitated, doubted her abilities, sought permission from someone else before making such a decision. But that woman was gone, replaced by someone stronger, someone who recognized her own worth. "Yes," I said simply. "I'd be honored." Later that night, I stood at the door of my small apartment above the bookstore, key in hand. The street below was quiet, peaceful. Through the window, I could see stars scattered across the velvet sky, a view I'd never been allowed to appreciate in my old life, where Caleb insisted on heavy curtains closed at all times. I turned the key in the lock, listening to the familiar click. A sound that once filled me with dread now represented security, sanctuary. The lock clicked again, but this time it was me locking the door, to keep peace in, and everything else out. How long would you stay silent if someone you loved was suffering behind closed doors? If this story moved you, please like, subscribe, and share to help others find the courage to speak up when they see the bruises that aren't meant to be seen.